back to Real Estate Radio Washington. I'm your host, Jim McQuaig, and we're talking real estate in the D.C. area with Ashleigh Wehmeyer from PenFed Realty. And we're going to get some tips on staging from Kim Gatchel from KGE Staging, who's joined her, and they work together on listings. So let's talk a little bit about listings.
For all you sellers.
For people looking to sell their home.
Well, I have kind of 5 things. I sort of put together a little list of 5 things your listing agent wants you to know. And the first one, I think people know about decluttering, but I don't think they understand how important it is to deeply cut the contents of their home. And go ahead
Deeply cut.
Go ahead and get that storage unit and move some of those things out and let a stager do their undecorating magic. The first person I ever heard use that term is my stager, Kim Gatchel, and she talks about how staging is really undecorating. And I think that that can also put sellers at ease, because I think sellers feel judged.
Sure.
You know, they're opening up their home. They're trying to
So
sell it.
how do you handle that? What do you say to them to help them not feel that judgment?
Kim, I defer to you on this one.
Yeah, give us a feel for
how do you handle
the psychology of it,
or
the nervous seller. Well, one thing I always tell the seller is that when you're decorating your home, all of your personal belongings are basically saying, this is our home. You know, it's personal photos and mementos, and that's important. But when you're staging a home, the message should be, this could be your home.
Right.
That's a key piece to not lose right there.
Any good stories? I mean, any major pushback or people that have just been hysterical, or
crazy houses.
I've probably staged about 80 properties so far, and I've only had one really nervous seller who followed me around, and everything I suggested, she was very,
a defense for
very defensive. Yes, like what? But it's so beautiful, and I kept trying to, let her know that instead of seeing your beautiful built-ins, they're literally seeing all of your collections of porcelain figurines and pottery and there's just so much. That's what you don't want to distract your buyer.
Knitting thimbles. I'm thinking collection of knitting thimbles.
Yes, yes.
Well, you want them to see, like you say, where their collection could be, not your collection.
Right.
So it's important that you're hiding the features of your home sometimes behind the decorating.
So do you actually have people literally cut like take box up stuff and take it out, or like rent a storage unit and move stuff totally out?
What I try to do, I don't want people to spend money unnecessarily, but I do think that if you look at it like you're already going to be boxing up things if you're moving, look around and, maybe out of season clothes or, items that you don't use all the time. Why not put them away now? You're going to be doing it in a few weeks anyway.
Very true.
And it really does, the more space the buyers see, that's going to help sell your home faster.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff.
Which really leads us right into sort of the second one, which is the sellers need to realize that the buyers really often don't have vision. They really can't see past your stuff or your decorating. And, buyers are often going through houses using sort of this subconscious 3 strikes rule. So if they see, that this carpet or, this, faucets will need to be changed and different things like that, they see one and they're like, okay, we can do that. Number 2, they're like, this could be a lot of work. And they have a 3rd strike, you're out. And they're going to see maybe if there's another house on the market that's about the same price that they don't have to do as much when they get in there, then that's the one they're going to go for.
So when you go through, when you're going to be listing a house, do you kind of identify the potential strikes for them?
I do, and I just sort of ask the sellers to remember what it was like when they were buying the home and to kind of put their buyer's eyes back on it. And, you've lived in this house for a long time. I was representing buyers, and we really were dealing with the seller who really didn't understand, that he hadn't really updated his home and those sorts of things. And when we got close to settlement, he said, when you live in a place, you don't really see maybe
like
the things that you need to do. Exactly.
That's true.
And it's the same with repairs too, which is, my third thing. It's really important, in my opinion, to tackle some of these repairs. I go around with buyers and, when they see that, some sort of a downspout is missing, or there's dry rot, or there's a stained carpet. These are all things that, scare the buyers, because one of the other big fears besides missing out on the perfect home is, something's wrong with the house.
Right.
And so if those are the things that you can see and you see that there's problems, what can't you see? And so when those buyers go into a negotiation, if they decide, what, we're going to go for this, but we want to protect ourselves because we're stretching to get into this new home, this bigger home, they're going to ask you to take more off the sales price or give a bigger seller subsidy, where maybe if you had just taken care of some of these repairs, maybe it would have cost you $3,000 or $4,000, but at the settlement table, it could cost you 10.
Right.
So I think that's an important thing for sellers to know. Tackle those things. Just take care of those few things, and then it's going to show better, and it's not going to be one of those 3 strikes that may send your buyer to somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of the little changes you can make are very reasonable. Paint doesn't cost very much. And,
Right. Great return on investment.
updating hardware on cabinets is very affordable. And these are the things you don't want to give them reasons not to buy your home.
Right.
And
Right.
and buyers do focus on those things.
And Kim is really good about that. And I think a good stager really is able to go in and kind of see, hey, how can we look at what you have, maybe move some things around, make some inexpensive enhancements. We already understand that you're selling and there's transactional costs, and we don't want to add to that. But if there are some really inexpensive things that you can do, it's really worth doing.
Well, so I'm really curious about this. You kind of struck my curiosity. You talked about some specific things. Give me the top 3 most cost-effective things to do to your house if you're a seller to make a difference.
Well, obviously we hit on the first one, which is declutter. And I
Yeah.
call it editing. Edit.
Right.
If you have really, full bookshelves and full closets, that's a big one, is closet space. You want to make the buyer, understand how much you have. If your closets are really cluttered and full, you're sort of sending a message to your buyer that there's not enough storage space.
Right.
So one of my
Psychological
rules,
trick
yes,
there.
it really is. It's a Jedi mind trick. So my big rule is, in a closet, clear the floors,
Clear the floors. Yeah.
because that'll give the
Oh,
perception
yeah.
of how
Good
much
point.
space is in there. Even if you have things hanging and stacked all the way up to the ceiling, if they can see the floor, they can see the dimensions of the room.
Right.
And the other huge one is paint.
Right.
And I'm not going to come in if you have a blue wall and say, oh gosh, you can't have any color in the home. You want your home to have some personality, but it doesn't have to be all neutral. But there are certain colors that have sort of come in and out of style.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The yellows and reds and golds are sort of, giving way to grays, and the new term is grayish. It's like a gray beige.
Wow.
So that's kind of the new thing. And also light fixtures.
Yeah.
Light fixtures.
They're
Yeah.
super affordable. You can get those lights that are 2 for $30. They're sort of the half circles that go up in the foyer and the
Right.
hallways, and they're huge. It really modernizes the perception of the
Absolutely.
space.
It's funny.
Absolutely.
Makes me think. A friend of mine had a home in our neighborhood, same builder and everything. But I used to go over to their house all the time and think, man, I like their house better than ours. And I finally realized they had bought it from a lighting contractor.
Oh, yeah.
And their light
lighting is
fixtures were
amazing.
First class.
spectacular.
Yeah.
And you just went around, and then when I realized that, I went around and started looking at them and going, man, yeah.
Interesting.
And
It's
they're
really
very, I
cool.
mean, I always just point people towards Lowe's and Home Depot. I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money
That's right.
to
Well,
make a big difference.
And I totally agree with that, which is sort of why it brings me to my number 4, which is, you're often selling your home to who you were back then.
Oh, yeah.
Those same sorts of people are going to, if you raised your family there, probably another family's going to want to raise their family there, but they're going to have today's tastes. And that's why a stager is so important,
Not
because
from 15 or 20
right,
years
they're
ago.
in tune with what the family of today is looking for and what the market trends are, because they're out there every day in the field, in the trenches, staging these homes. And, which, sometimes I tell my sellers, don't sell your neighbor's house. And they don't really understand. So I explain to them, I'm like, well, if your neighbor or somebody else in your neighborhood is on the market as well, that's your competitor. You're competing against them. And if they're making their house attractive to today's buyers, and if they're pricing it right, I mean, your house, the first 2 weeks is when it's the fresh, sexy listing on the market, and you want it to
Right.
get, that's when it's going to garner its most attention. It's the new kid in town. And if you price it right, you're you've got 60% of, buyers are really going to be looking at that, and it goes down dramatically if you overprice, even just by a few $1,000s, depending on the price point. And, oftentimes if you price it right, you stage it well, you get multiple offers, and you end up getting where you wanted to be anyway,
Yeah.
over list. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a mistake a lot of people make too. You talked about the price, overpricing it is, well, I'll price it up high here because I can negotiate down. And
Right.
that's
You think people are going to
exactly
ask you down.
the opposite of correct strategy right there.
Absolutely.
You want to create a bidding war right out of the gate. At least that's what I've always heard the best listing agents say.
I think you want to price it right.
Yeah.
And I think if you price it right and you make it look like the best value in the neighborhood, then you're going to garner a lot of interest, and that's when those multiple offers come.
Right.
And then they start to compete with each other to be in this house that they think they're going to be organized when they live here. They're going to, have beautiful memories when they live here because that's what they're seeing.
Right.
Their ability to be in this house and raise their families there
Yeah.
or live their life there.
Yeah.
And we did touch a little bit on the online shopping aspect of real estate now.
Right.
And a well-staged home really looks so much more inviting when you're shopping
Looking at
online.
photos, yeah.
Absolutely.
It looks more like a
Oh.
model home.
That's such a big deal. And I see so many, and I hear complaints about how, the best agents go, I can't believe I just saw this house online. It looked like there was 3 pictures snapped with a old flip phone or something.
Big pet peeve of mine.
I mean, come on, you're selling this house.
Absolutely.
Get a good photographer and get some good photos of the house, stage it well so the
It's-
photos look really sharp and good.
Right. So that they want to come see it
It
in
draws
person.
people in. It really does. I've
Yeah.
heard that.
Well, guys, thanks for coming in and sharing that. Hopefully,
Great
you got
stuff.
some great info on